Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning and good evening. My name is Roland Schwinn. I'm heading business development and partnerships at Signum, the first digital asset bank. My background is traditional exchanges, trading, clearing, settlement of derivatives, and also have been in cryptos for some years. I have the pleasure today to have Arthur Cheong in this conference here. So Arthur is the founding partner of Defiance Capital, a crypto asset investment fund, combining fundamental research, but also an active involvement approach based here in Singapore. Arthur is featured as one of the top DeFi investors by the Block Research. Defiance manages 9 digits assets under management and has outperformed Bitcoin since its inception. So Arthur, welcome. I have a couple of questions for you today and hope you can share with us a bit about your views on where DeFi is right now, where it's going. So what is your view on the current state of DeFi and how has it evolved? So as it has crossed 1 billion of TVL, total value locked, in June last year, and we have seen the peak in May this year. So as being a DeFi pioneer, what is your view on how has it come to where it is today?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me here, and it's a pleasure to be here to speak with you as well, Roland. I think right now, I think last year, 2020, we have witnessed a 0 to 1 moment for DeFi. I think back then there was a lot of skepticism about this whole concept of DeFi. Like, I think it's just nice at the previous session, I think Sam was mentioning there was a lot of effort, and I think from a user experience point of view, a lot of other factors, actually the centralized exchange and other centralized crypto service provider are still doing it better than DeFi. But nonetheless, without all these shortcomings, DeFi managed to capture the community's attention and imagination and grow very quickly. So I think right now, DeFi is definitely one of the main sector in the crypto space. As you can see from various data and usage figures. So first of all, DeFi have crossed more than 3 million users on Ethereum alone, if you measure user by a unique address. So I think if you combine both Binance Smart Chain and other ecosystem, I think we probably have close to 5 millions of unique DeFi user right now. And this is just in a span of less than 2 years. And the total amount of capital, the very commonly used metric in this space is called TVL. According to DeFi Pulse, it's around 50 plus billion. And I think at the same time last year, we were only at less than $5 billion. So this alone have grown more than 10 times to a very respectable 50 plus billion dollar. So definitely there was a very exponential growth here. So, and when you look at the venture funding, in the crypto space, DeFi is consistently one of the largest category of crypto space that's being funded together with NFT and some crypto infrastructure. So right now, almost everyone in the crypto space and outside the crypto space have recognized what DeFi is and the potential and the benefit. And I think how it has evolved is actually started from a very grassroots kind of movement. I think the term DeFi was coined by a group of teams building like financial applications on top of Ethereum back then in late 2018. And back then there was only like MakerDAO, Compound, Dharma, and a few others. There's less than 10 DeFi applications at then. But then during the bear market, it was also the only use cases that managed to thrive and survive over the 2018 and 2019 bear market situation. And I think just that the whole usage and potential just keep capturing more imagination. And as a result, I think that the big changes is 2020, the DeFi summer, because the yield farming or what we call liquidity mining have kickstarted the whole wave of a new wave of capital coming to the space. So yeah, right now it's definitely a very big, I think, yeah, and it's something that everyone can recognize now.
So you as a pioneer investor in DeFi, institutional investor, so what role has DeFi's capital played in that context, growing the markets?
Yeah, I think there's few main role we play are one, governance. We are very active in the governance of the DeFi protocol we invested in. Often our participation will affect whether that certain decision can reach a quorum or not. And there's also a trend of crypto protocol decentralizing to a DAO structure, which what stands for as a decentralized autonomous organization. But DAOs require active stakeholder participation to be effective. It's just like a democracy. If you have a very low voter participation, it's also not very effective when it comes to the whole governance. So this is a big part we play because we are a major token holder in a lot of DeFi protocols. So our active participation makes a lot of sense. We also provide liquidity to a lot of the early stage DeFi protocol we invested in. SushiSwap, Aave, Alpha, Bancor, Balancer. So all of these we have provided significant amount of liquidity at early stage of the protocol. And I think that we are one of the very few bigger funds out there that are willing to take this risk because there's a lot of the smart contract risk and all this thing that some of the bigger institutional players might not be comfortable doing. And this also come back into the beta testing. We are often one of the earliest users of this product and able to give a very direct feedback to the team building this so they can reiterate and improve their product follow on. Another role we play is also to surface the high quality information in this space. Currently, crypto investment and trading in general, there's still a lot of noise and a lot of people bought on a hype and speculation focus. So we always try to surface a more fundamental research approach where to approach crypto investment and look at it in general. So this is some kind of like a thought leadership we are advocating.
So besides the liquidity provision of some protocols and also governance functions, do you also engage with the teams on further developing protocols or solutions after you invested?
I think this is something that we are usually more of a supporting role. I think that ultimately the team should know what is the best thing to build. So we always give some feedback on some of the features and some of the direction they could have taken. But generally, we are more on like a supporting role in this regard. We will not participate directly in helping to build it, but we will be one of the one that like power user. They give a lot of feedback on the beta stage, alpha stage. Yeah, this is the role we play.
In the previous chat, Sam highlighted that the beauty of DeFi is also that it's easy to connect to other players, in particular in the same protocol. Do you also take that approach when it comes to your investment, leveraging investments in your portfolio against each other?
Yes, certainly. I think there's a lot of synergy to be made because what have enabled DeFi to grow so quickly despite the shortcoming is the composability and interoperability attributes. So different DeFi protocol can build on top of each other instead of like building the required function from scratch. And this results in a massive efficiency and time saving. So whenever possible, we always try to connect the protocol when they can achieve synergy.
So within the range of available protocols, what is your main focus? Is it more DEXes? Is it credit lending or derivatives? Or are you also looking into spaces such as NFTs?
Yeah, I think right now, lending and borrowing and DEXes, decentralized exchange, are the two key pillars of DeFi because almost every other function need this tool to exist. So this historically has been some of our largest investment. I think that these two will still continue to grow and their product market fit is already proven. So these two is continue to be one of our major investment. And I think derivative, as you can see from the success of the centralized exchange in offering it, is also an area that we have been investing quite a lot of our resources as well. In terms of other, I think there's one sector that is have not captured sufficient attention, but I think there's a lot of potential, which is the asset management space. I actually think that right now the crypto move very quickly, and for most of the people to invest in crypto, if they want to venture beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum, um, it's actually not possible to have a very informed decision unless they spend a very significant amount of time into it on almost like a weekly basis. So actually the best way is to get access to various asset management products, and there should be more asset management offering. And I think there's a few, there is a building on this. On the DeFi side, we have Enzyme, we also have DH, we also have DEXTF. They have not achieved the success as big as like a lending and borrowing and DEXes, but we think that this is very promising and it's probably a better way to onboard most of the new entrants into DeFi than lending them to trade directly. And I think NFT, I think personally, I've been an NFT user since pretty early days. I was one of the earliest users of CryptoKitty. I also participated in God's Unchained. But I think that it's still not that easy to invest from the bigger player point of view, unless you are okay with taking a very big equity stake. So usually DeFi is more of a token focused investor. So we only have made, I think, 4 or 5 NFT investments so far, but most of them have turned out to be pretty successful. The most successful one is Axie Infinity. We are one of the earliest investors, and they continue to grow very well. And I think right now it's one of the most successful crypto protocol out there. And we also invested in Mintable. Mintable have just completed their Series A fundraise, and they are valued around 75 million valuation pre-money, and they are raised from notable investors such as Mark Cuban and various other famous VC as well. Yeah,
very interesting. Yeah, I also agree that the asset management space is probably one of the more underdeveloped spaces. And when you look at the solutions out there, like the SET protocol or the XTF, it's mainly around baskets so far. But I also think that with let's say more cross-chain activity, and I come to that also in a moment. But also at the same hand, a demand out there for simple user-friendly end products, which could be complex structures behind it, including derivatives, right? But the consumer, the end investor wants something simple to invest in, particular for the retail space. So where do you see things going in the asset management? What do you see is the biggest potential there? Is it rather more passive approach, or is it smart baskets, smart beta baskets, or is it structured products? What do you see in that space?
I think in terms of addressable market, I would say I think it's a combination of passive and also the active rebalancing approach. So I think when you look at the asset management trend right now, there's some new trend called smart beta. I think like a active rebalancing passive vehicle that have a set of criteria will probably be one of the best with the largest market addressable market size it can grow. But I think structured product, there's a lot of potential, but is also usually more complicated and harder for consumer to understand. I think the margin there will be higher, but I don't think it will be as big as like a passive vehicle for people just want to get exposure to DeFi asset. That's my personal view.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, coming to new protocols entering the space, you mentioned earlier that it started off with Ethereum, but then we have since I think Q3 last year, the Binance chain also became very active with platforms like PancakeSwap, and then now we have Phantom active, we have Polygon, and today was I think a very important day. We saw the launch of the first DeFi platform on Kusama, the canary chain of Polkadot. And then we have Flare coming soon, which has already announced Songbird. There is also a canary chain and a test platform. So how do you see this all coming together, and also things developing with I would not say new protocols, some of them have been around for quite a while, but with these protocols getting active in DeFi now, and in particular, how do you see them acting together on a cross-chain basis?
I think every other layer 1 protocol have recognized that DeFi is probably the largest product market fit for public blockchain. This is why that there's this concentrated effort to develop their DeFi ecosystem. And I think the Ethereum's dominance is going to probably reduce slightly, but it's going to remain very high. So it's fair to say that probably 95% of the DeFi activities happen on Ethereum. And I think probably that will go down to around 80% in the next 2 years. But Ethereum will still be the dominant protocol because of the infrastructure, because of the user familiarity. Even NFT right now, most of the NFT are on Ethereum blockchain, despite the cost. So you can see how dominant Ethereum is. I think all the other chains, they will be able to grow faster in a percentage term, simply because their ecosystem are just very early, like Ethereum 2-3 years ago in DeFi. So they will definitely see a lot of growth, and I think some of them will see some success. Some of them will see less. But I think there's definitely a lot of potential out there. We have been investing some of it in other ecosystems as well, mainly Solana and some in the Binance Smart Chain. And I think Terra also have a really promising developing DeFi ecosystem as well.
So how do you see the future role play between decentralized finance, open finance, and centralized finance, be it the exchanges or CeFi players?
I definitely think there is more like a symbiotic relationship. In some segment, you will see market share being taken away by DeFi, but I think in some area that centralized exchange is still going to be the main solution going forward. So I'll go into a little bit more technical. So actually, you can see that what the biggest disruption DeFi have done to the, let's say, the centralized crypto company are two areas. First, the DEXes have almost completely taken away the role of the second tier offshore crypto exchanges. So when you look at it, I mean, not to offend anyone, I think that the market share for the tier 2 crypto exchanges such as like KuCoin and various other, you can search it on CoinMarketCap, have came down a lot, simply because that if you want to trade a major like ETH, Bitcoin, like the top 10 coin, you go to like the major exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, FTX. But if you want to trade the other stuff that the big exchange don't list them as quickly, last time you go to these tier 2, tier 3 exchanges, but right now you can just trade them on DEX anyway. So you do not need to go to do another round of KYC, put on a mugshot anymore. So that has been the biggest disruption. You see the power law even more prominently in central exchange right now. Like, yep. And I think the second thing is lending and borrowing. I think it used to be very dominant by BlockFi and Genesis Capital. Right now, they are still very dominant. But for some, they use the borrower have a better option right now. They sometimes, if the asset they have is able to be used as collateral, they might find it more flexible to borrow from Aave or Compound directly. So I will give one example. So usually when you interact with the institutional lender, they do not like to do a very short-term loan. The reason being because there is a manpower cost and resources to originate every single loan. And let's say you open a loan, even it's an open term, you close it within 3 days. They do not make that much money from it. Let's say they charge you 8%. That's annualized rate. If they only take the loan for 3 days, they're not gonna make that much money from doing that loan for you. But if you do it with Aave and Compound, that doesn't matter because you're interacting with the protocol. You can pay off within 2 hours, 3 hours. It doesn't really matter to the protocol at all. So in that sense, DeFi is more efficient than centralized provider when it comes to borrowing and lending. So yeah, I think this is the two main challenges. But I think right now, derivative-wise, DeFi, the experience DeFi can offer is still pretty far away from, let's say, Binance and FTX and others, because you do not have cross margin, and the liquidation mechanism due to the underlying blockchain cannot be as effective as fast. So most people will still find it better to trade on centralized exchange for derivatives. Yeah, and obviously on the key recovery side, all this thing, central exchanges is much better experience. So I think both will continue to grow, but I think in some area DeFi will grow faster.
Yeah, I think also from a convenience factor, it's still sometimes quite raw for, let's say, non-tech savvy investors also to deal with protocols directly and to stake their tokens. So it's always, of course, by far easier to use an exchange interface and you just click the button and then you lock it up for a month free or whatever. This is, I think, also an important factor which will define the role play in the future, where DeFi will probably always be more at the forefront of innovation. But raw, not that user-friendly in some cases, and where the exchange, of course, have integrated platforms where you can just move the tokens from one section to another. we like to talk about the great success always, and it is an amazing success what we have seen since June last year, and also before, the crypto land taken by storm. But of course, there's a lot of things to respect as well when it comes to the risks, when it comes to current shortcomings. And what is your view on the, let's say, where could DeFi still improve with regards to things coming to short as of today? And also, what is the most relevant risks from your perspective to take good care of?
I think right now the shortcomings is just the lack of clear documentation and information sometimes from the user when they are interacting. Like, I think the risks and like all these things need to be more prominently explained and highlighted before interacting with it. But I think it's also like a nature of a very unrestricted, unregulated free market, because there are these opportunistic protocol that might not have the best intention at the mind. We'll always try to be the most aggressive when they come to marketing and targeting users. So I think when you look at the top DeFi protocol, the so-called blue chips like Aave, Compound, Uniswap, they all done a fairly good job in highlighting the risk of using it, like the potential pitfall, the disclaimer. All these I think are like a very good practice, and it should be championed. And obviously, like the protocol should have a regular audit, especially for the new release of their codes, and highlight the potential risk of interacting this protocol. So I think a lot of the top DeFi protocol are doing that, but not all of them are doing it. And I think this is the main thing that need to be improved. I think one way this industry can probably solve this is like have a like an industry-wide agree standard on the way of the disclosure should be putting out. It's not a regulation, but it's more like a the industry collective effort that everyone agree that what kind of disclosure we all need to have before, like on our website or on our product guideline area. So I think then the protocol that not doing this just have a much disadvantage compared to the safety assurance offered by protocol that are doing this. Yeah, I think the safety, all this thing, definitely there's a lot much to be improved on.
Yeah, it's quite interesting sometimes also when you are exposed to changes on a platform or migrations as an investor. You see, in DeFi, you usually need to screen the markets, what's going on with your deployments, whereas in traditional finance, you get an email or you get a letter or even a call, let's say, if there would be change to make a decision. So this is something I think you need to get used to in DeFi. And I fully agree, some of the protocols, they have probably not such a great client focus and client centricity. So you need to sometimes really interact on a Discord or Telegram to find out what they precisely mean with some things, and even when your funds are deployed already. So, but at the end also is, I think, an interesting feature because as the world is still young comparatively, it gives you also the chance to directly engage, sometimes even with founders or with essential team members on those channels.
Definitely.
Yeah, so maybe before we come to the last question, one recent development is, of course, we see the evolution also with regards to regulation. We see it in cryptos happening. We see stable regulation coming up, like here in Singapore, where MS has decided to regulate crypto trading under the Payment Services Act, and also other countries such as Switzerland are pretty well advanced. Japan was the first one even to regulate crypto trading under the Financial Markets Authority of Japan. How do you think things coming into DeFi when we look at the current regulatory developments?
I think that it's actually the regulators, most of them are trying to understand it. Some of them have a more advanced understanding. Some of them have not. I think currently the biggest debate is should we regulate DeFi the same way that we regulate centralized crypto companies such as Coinbase, all this thing, And I think there's no clear answer yet. I think that from a DeFi industry point of view, I think that doesn't make sense because a lot of these are non-custodial and you're interacting with the protocol directly instead of interacting with a company. And the protocol oftentimes cannot control do not have a control of the user asset. So in a way, I don't think it's fair to regulate it in the same way. But I also think that yes, there should be a better way that can be done to improve how DeFi is offering their product and services to the user around the world. So hopefully we will have a more sensible regulation. So I think the key event to watch is the October guidance by Financial Action Task Force, in short FATF. They are supposed to release a guidance on DeFi, and I think the DeFi industry is trying to educate the regulators more about what DeFi is about, what the benefit and what is the pitfall, so that we have a more sensible regulation recommendation from them.
Thank you. So I think we're coming close to the end of our session. As a last question, I would like to ask you, so what would be your top 3 recommendations for new and advanced DeFi participants?
I think for new participants, it's really about the understanding first, instead of putting your money, because you need to know some of the basic in crypto. And unfortunately, there's no shortcut. I think it will at least take 10 to 20 hours of reading and learning before you should actually put your real money into interacting with DeFi. So some of the resources I would recommend, there's a few YouTube channels that have a very good introduction video about what is DeFi and how to use DeFi. I think one is called Finematic. Another one is a book produced by CoinGecko. They have 2. One is called How to DeFi, that was published last year, and they just published a new one called How to DeFi Advanced version this year. So it was one of the most comprehensive material I've come across when it comes to what DeFi is, and come to using it, come to investing in it. So I think I highly recommend everyone that want to get started to give these 2 books a read. I think just help you save a lot of money and avoid potential pitfall if you're willing to spend the amount of time to understand it. So I think one thing, positive takeaway, I'm one of the earliest DeFi user, and I have never been so-called rug pull before. This is a very common industry term for, some smart contract exploit, some hack. So even on a defiance level and on a personal user level, we have never been rug pulled. Some of the protocol we have invested has been exploited before, unfortunately, but we have never been a victim of this because we always do our due diligence and research before putting our money into all these DeFi protocol.
Thank you so much, Arthur. It has been a great conversation as always. Thank you very much also for listening. Thank you also Tai and the SCB 10X team. Great conference to put together. I wish everyone a good rest of the day and a great weekend ahead. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep. Thank you very much. Thank you, Roland. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.